What is up, my loves? Welcome back to another episode of the Fully Alive podcast. My name is Stephanie Elsperman. I'm your girl. And in today's episode, we are going to be diving in to what you need to know if you really want to turbocharge your path for the rest of this year. So we are over the halfway point in 2024. The first beginnings of fall are starting to happen. I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but I can feel it in the air. And I'm like, oh my God. I can't believe this. I'm such a summer baby, so I love being in the summer, but we're starting to get to that place in the year where it's like, all right, what's going on? How's it going for you? Is it working? Is it not working? What needs to shift and change? And if you're at this place where you're like, I'm ready to fucking go, where you have created so much momentum for yourself so far within this year, and you're really ready to kick it up a notch, where you're like, you know what? We've only got a few months left, so why not just go all the way in? Why not just send it full send on my purpose? Give it all that I've got to really see your goals come to fruition this year. I'm going to take you through one key shift that's really going to help you step into the leadership position of your own personal life and speed up your manifestations this year. You can take all the time in the world. I will always say your purpose is not going anywhere. There's no need for rush or for urgency. However, it can be fun to play with timing. And there are certain key shifts that we need to make in order to really expand our capacity, in order to hold space for faster and faster manifestations. Because if you're not fully prepared in your body, what happens is those manifestations come in, and you might have experienced this, they leave just as fast, right? So if we can expand your capacity to actually hold space for a sped up timeline, whoo baby, the rest of this year is going to be an absolute breeze. And the biggest thing that I'll also say with this is speeding up the rest of your year while still making time for rest. I think a lot of the time when we talk about getting more done in less time, we start to create this narrative where you just have to do more and hustle more and go, go, go constantly. And of course, there is such a beautiful element of holy hustle, let's call it, where getting down in the weeds and getting gritty with your work and really digging in and going there is so beneficial. However, not when it's at the detriment of your own body, because your body is the vessel for your purpose. If you're not fully taking care of your own body, how is it that this could possibly be sustainable over your lifetime? And if you've been here before, you know that we are all about sustainable success, because I want to see you in your purpose for your life, not just for a quick rise and a quick fall because you get burnt out. So we're going to tackle exactly that in this podcast episode, speeding up while still making time for rest. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So first things first, if you say that you want to have absolutely magical and incredible things happen in the rest of this year, whether that's in your personal life, your business, your career, then you, my dear, are the one who's in charge of it. You are the one who's in charge of making it happen. And I know that sounds like point blank, duh, of course, but I think sometimes it's really easy to be able to outsource your power to other people or other experiences, or wait for somebody else to say, yes, that's a good idea. You are the one who's actually leading the path. You are the magnet for your movement. Everything calibrates around you. And there is no one else who can lead this movement better than you. There's a reason why it was given to you specifically. Every single one of us are vessels for purpose within this life. However, you're going to receive an idea from a power so much greater than you. And the minute that you say yes to it means that you are the one who is fit to actually lead that. Nobody could lead it better than you. Sure, there might be people doing similar things. However, nobody is doing it in the exact same way or the exact same reason why as you. There is something so specific and unique, your X factor, if you will, that makes you fit to lead this purpose. And the minute that you say yes to it means that you are the one who's responsible for bringing it into the world. Yes, you can receive all of the signs from the universe that you want, all of the messages from God that you want. You can receive it all. However, at the end of the day, you are the one who's in charge of actually carrying it out and taking the action steps to be able to see exactly what you want come to fruition. And if there's a part of you that's forgotten it, just let it sink in for a moment. You don't have to go at this completely by yourself, but you are the one who gets to courageously take action. And if there's been a part of you that maybe you've been stopping yourself a little bit short from taking that full-bodied action that you know is possible for yourself, you feel like you're shying away from those things that you know are going to move the needle, but you're like, I'll do that when. I'll do that at a later date then. I'll save this for a rainy day and then I'll implement it once I'm ready. There is no time where you're ready. Ready is a decision that you make right now as a leader of your life. And so you can say that you want all these things, but are you actually assuming the role of the leader who actually does it? Who actually does it? You are the one who makes it happen, not a coach, not a framework, not a step-by-step. Those are incredible things to support you on your path. However, at the end of the day, Nobody can take the action for you. Nobody can hold your vision as well as you can hold your vision. That's on you. And that is absolutely powerful, because when you start trusting that you are the one who's in charge and you begin acting on the ideas that are flowing through you, rather than just talking about all the ideas and saying that you have a gazillion ideas, but actually acting on them and becoming decisive on your path as the woman who calls the shots, that is when you tap into the divine power of your purpose, because your purpose exists as an idea. Once you carry it out, it exists in the world as this own entity that over time starts to generate its own momentum, and it grows and grows and grows, and that is where the ease comes in. But it starts with you saying yes before anyone has given you the green light. So if you've been looking for a sign, or you've been asking for confirmation that you're meant to go for it in the big way that you know that you're here to do, then this is it. And so you might be like, okay, Steph, that's really awesome. Yes, I am, of course, the leader of my life. Well, then the next question to ask yourself is, do you trust yourself to be in charge of your life? Do you trust yourself to lead your purpose? Do you trust yourself to be in charge? And your knee-jerk reaction might be, well, yeah, of course I trust myself. Like, I'm in a business for a reason, or I'm at this place in my career for a reason. Of course I lead. Yeah, definitely. Do you feel safe in your own leadership? Or is there a little part of you that's maybe somewhat afraid of your own leadership cycle? Because in the past, maybe you've gotten the results that you wanted, but on the flip side, your body was the one that took a hit, or your mind or your spirit took a hit. Maybe in the past, you were striving for perfection so much that there was this immense pressure on you constantly. You started to create this relationship with your own success that didn't feel quite right. What I see most often in high performers is not necessarily that they are unable to lead. Most high performers grow up being just naturally in leadership positions. You were the leader of the group projects. You were the captain of your sports team. You were the person who was picked first for promotions. You were the person who just full force went after your own business ideas. You know how to lead. What I see most often with high performers is that somewhere along the lines, in your pursuit of the goal or of your own achievement or vision, we've broken trust with ourselves in being the boss. That on some level, there was a time or an experience where you created an environment for your own self, not anyone else, but for your own self, where it felt unsafe. And it felt unsafe because it was driven more by the ego's need or fear itself than it was by the desire of your heart or the power of your purpose inside of you. And this becomes one of the most ultimate betrayals of self. It doesn't feel that way because you're still pursuing the goal. But deep down somewhere in our subconscious, you may start to create this relationship with yourself where you will front as the leader, but do you trust yourself to lead in a way that feels safe and feels good in your body and feels sustainable for your mind, body, and spirit for your life? Because the truth is that in order to go where you want to go, you've got to take care of yourself in the process. Your body has to feel safe with you being the one in charge. And if in the past you've been in certain experiences where it hasn't felt fully safe, or your body has been run into the ground, or you've self-sacrificed your own mind, body, or spirit for this idea of success within your mind, well, then your body is going to distance yourself so naturally from creating these big actions that you know that you're here to take. For me, I used to create this cycle, and I've shared this story on the podcast before, but even growing up, like, I was never the kid who like finished my homework and was like, yay, now I get to play. Like, I always overcomplicated my homework. I wanted it to be perfect to the point where I would just do homework for hours and hours and hours on end. I know that sounds so nerdy, but it's true. Like, I would just overdo it constantly. And of course, I started to evolve over time within my life. However, this pattern continued following me, where I would push myself endlessly to be the best that I could possibly be, but at the sacrifice of my own body, such that I would literally end up in the hospital completely sick from stress. And you could say it was, X, Y, and Z things that were happening, but ultimately I know in my heart that it was from stress. And so was that level of intensity that I held for myself was it really driven by my heart's desire to do something great? Maybe 30%. Or was it more so driven by my own ego's need and fear of not getting something perfect and therefore losing love? 60%. And if it was driven by my ego's need or fear, then it didn't matter what my body had to say. It didn't matter what cues it was giving me. It didn't matter what realistically I actually needed. I was just going and going and going. And that's where I personally started to break trust with myself, where it's like, I don't fully trust myself to lead because my body literally just ended up in the like, I'm sick. That doesn't work. That doesn't work long term. And so even though it created a cycle where even though I was still always in leadership positions, there would be a part of me that once I got to a certain level of pressure, I would just want to completely distance myself. And you could call it self-sabotage, you could call it something else, but outsource my decision-making power to somebody else because it was like, this just gets to be too much. In the past, this didn't work for me. I ended up burnt out. I ended up sick. Like, I can't be here again. And so there was this part of me that secretly wanted to back down, even though I had these big goals, big dreams. I secretly wanted to back down and have somebody else lift the weight of the world off my shoulders that I had created and to save me from myself, essentially. And even though I was still able to grow, it was a much slower path of growth than what I've opened to now, which is the fact that when I take full responsibility within my life, your action steps become 10 times more powerful, 10 times more magnetic, where you say something and then it happens. And it doesn't just go away, but you're actually able to hold it because you're no longer self-sacrificing your own body, mind, spirit for this idea of success. You trust yourself to be in charge. And so now, I think we're in a time where we're recognizing that this old way of doing things, of pushing and pushing and pushing and hustling more and doing more and running yourself into the ground and wearing how much you do as your trophy, and all of these ideas that have been pushed by, let's call it the boss babe movement, which I don't think is all bad. But all of these ideas that maybe in the past have been something that has been very celebrated, we're realizing that they don't work. And if you're listening to this, you probably had one of those experiences where you're like, that doesn't work for me anymore. But now what does? And what I noticed is that there's a lot of all or nothing, where it's either trash the boss babe movement, trash, working hard. I just want to lean back and go to Pilates and be taken care of within my life and etc. Right? There's a lot of all or nothing. And the reality is, and I think what we're being faced with is deciding and choosing, what does it actually mean to be in charge of your life? What does it actually mean for you to be the boss within your life and your business? What kind of boss do you want to be for yourself first? Who are you when you're in charge of your life, your business, your career? To yourself first. Because again, you could be the best boss to somebody else, but when it comes to yourself, are you that same person? Because what happens is when we don't necessarily trust ourselves to lead, we start to pull back. You might have thoughts around, can I really handle this success? Can I really hold it once it comes here? Do I really have what it takes? And this can appear in a multitude of ways. Every single person is going to have their own experience with what breaking trust with themselves actually looks like, or what not fully trusting that boss version of themselves to lead actually looks like. What I see most often within high performers is that there are 4 different shadow archetypes of this boss version of ourselves. The first is the all or nothing boss. So this might be the part of you that goes full speed ahead into any given project or any given idea that you have, and then goes and goes and goes and pushes it and pushes it and pushes it, even when your body is like, hey, we need a rest, we need a break, we need something else. When your body is trying to send you these signals, you say, no, we have to go faster, we have to go quicker. And it is driven by this urgency until there is no gas left in the tank. And you're like, oh my God, I'm completely burnt out. And then you have to enter into this massive recharge cycle. And so you create this energy where it's like, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. Or your body starts sending you messages. You might get sick. You might have different things come up that literally force you to slow down. And then you feel a victim to them because you're like, God, why is this happening right now? I was going full speed ahead. Why am I now having to rest? It's because it wasn't sustainable the way that you were doing it. There was a part of you that knew that we couldn't keep going like this. So that's the all or nothing boss. Then we have the overthinks every single detail boss. The one who maybe is just a little bit perfectionistic in their standards for themselves. You might not even have this high of standards for other people. If you're somebody who manages a team, you might completely be cool with your team members' mistakes or with things not being like fully 110% perfect. But for yourself personally, you hold yourself to such a high standard that you look at every single minuscule detail, every single thing, and you overthink it and you overcomplicate it such that there's immense pressure every single time you go to move the needle. You start to create this cycle where there's very slow progress because you're falling into this perfectionism, procrastination cycle where because your brain subconsciously perceives every single task like, oh my God, we're going to have to be perfect in this one. It wants to completely avoid these needle moving activities, procrastinate them, push them off because it's already perceiving the amount of pressure that is tied to each one of these tasks. So even though you know that you can create greatness and you know the standard that you hold for yourself, things start to happen really slowly because every single thing has to be perfect. And this takes a toll on your body as well. And then we have the cute little off the hook boss. When any challenge arises to the surface or there's any little bit of resistance, it's like, I knew that this was a sign that I needed to take a nap today. Of course. Free day. And it's like, it's a wash. No big deal. And it's subconsciously avoiding taking responsibility for this project, even though you're like, yes, I'm the leader of my life. There's a subconscious, like keeping responsibility at an arm's distance and using self-care in air quotes, or needing to take a rest or a break as a way of actually avoiding. And you know the difference. You know the difference between my body is communicating to me that, hold up, we need a second. We need some play. We need some rest. We need some nourishment, what have you, versus, that was so hard. I'm just going to flop back. You know that difference. You can feel it in your body. One feels like stagnation. One feels maybe uncomfortable, but like, okay, I know that this is necessary and needed. That's the one where I call this empowered rest, where you're like, I am choosing to rest in this moment. The other is, I'm not necessarily choosing it, but my unconscious reactive patterns are saying, oh, this is so hard, or resistance is coming up, my own fear is coming to the surface, so therefore I'm gonna like flop back and just take a rest. Or maybe it's numbing, scrolling, seeking external validation can also come in, being around people constantly, getting caught up in the chaos of life, or the drama of life. I see this all the time when I have clients who are like, I'm just so busy, I don't have time. Of course, right? Every single human being is busy, and there are different seasons where we're more busy than others. However, you are the one who's in charge. You get to choose where your priorities lie. And so falling into that whole idea of like, oh my God, I'm so busy, I don't have time. A lot of the time it can be the brain's way of getting caught up in the chaos as a way of avoiding taking responsibility for the very things that are in front of you. And then the fourth archetype is the waiting for somebody else to lead sort of boss. And this one's actually pretty sneaky. I've noticed this in the past within myself. And it's sneaky because you will appear as the leader, right? You have no choice but to lead within your life. Typically, if you're called to a big purpose, you'll notice that in the past, you've always been in a leadership position within your life. Like you literally have no choice. Like you don't work well with another boss. You just are the leader of your life. However, there might be this little secret little hope within the back of your mind for somebody else to lift the burden off of your shoulders, for somebody else to make the decision for you, for somebody to just tell you how to do it so then you can execute it. And so you outsource your decision-making power to other people, other frameworks, other coaches, other programs, other things, instead of saying, I am the one who leads this and I'm consciously choosing what I am taking in here. You wait for something to validate you, to give you the green light to go ahead. And again, this is sneaky because you might not identify with waiting for somebody else to lead. And also everybody else within your life might see you as 110% the one who just takes charge and is the leader. However, likely because of past cycles with perfectionism, overcomplicating things, overthinking things, your own anxiety, whatever it might be, there's like this, there's so much pressure with being the leader, and therefore I just want to outsource it to somebody else. Like I can't deal with these things coming up within myself. And so therefore, can somebody just make it easy for me? Can somebody just tell me the right way to do it? And over time, it gets comfortable. You get comfortable being leaned back. And then when you don't have somebody right in front of you telling, hey, this is the next right step, you realize you don't fully trust yourself to make those decisions anymore. And that slows down your progress. These are the ones that I typically see, but you might have your own personal concoction. And I really invite you to look at, if you were to be really honest with yourself, because none of these things probably show up that consciously, unless you're like, oh yes, this is very timely for me, and this is exactly what's been coming up for me. A lot of these things will happen very subconsciously, and it takes being like, interesting. Where can I tighten up my own leadership style within myself, me being the boss of myself a little bit more? Because likely at some point, whether it's in your life previously or this is coming up for you personally right now, you reach a point where you say, in order to actually take it to the next level, I cannot keep going like this. These certain patterns that I've been acting in the past are not fit to take me where I desire to go and where I know that I am headed. And it's not a question of if you're going there, but when you are going there. Of course, your success is absolutely inevitable. You are bound to do absolutely incredible and great things. The mere fact that you have a big purpose means that you're here for a big life. However, it's when will you do those, and in what way will you do those? That is the question. And if you're really here to turbocharge your path for the rest of this year, those patterns that are keeping you from fully assuming the one who is in charge of every single step and the one who's absolutely decisive, the one who is the driver of the ship and also takes care of themselves, those patterns have got to go. And so I really invite you to reflect and imagine the most incredible boss. Imagine that you had a boss, right? And if you're running a business, sometimes this might feel really good. Sometimes you might be like, get the boss out of here. Okay, imagine that you just had the most incredible boss and they were absolutely loving, caring. They were so badass. They pushed you in a way that felt really healthy, but they were always there to hold you. They were just the most incredible boss ever. What kind of rest would they give you? How would they treat you? How would they empower you when there's a challenge in front of you? What kind of standard would they hold you to? When it's down to the wire and there's a deadline that needs to be hit, how would they speak to you? How would they believe in you? How would they structure their day to balance power and also peace? How would they treat you? And start to imagine what that boss is actually like. And could you be that for yourself first? And could you start to repair this relationship that maybe you're starting to notice in the past you've broken? Could you start to repair this relationship with yourself to trust yourself being in charge? Not only when it's easy, but also when it's challenging. Who are you in that moment to yourself first? Do you back down? Do you stand up? Do you say it? Are you empowering? Are you berating? Who are you to yourself first? That is the most important place to start. And I promise you, once you trust yourself being in charge, A, your X factor becomes even more clear and potent, baby. And B, you're going to be able to turbocharge for the rest of this year and take it big without sacrificing yourself or your rest in the process, because it's got to be that way. I don't want you to end the year in January and be like, I need 2 months off. Absolutely not. We're here for continuous creation. What if it didn't have to be so hard? What if it didn't have to be so much pressure or so much stress? What if it actually got to be fun and easy? And that starts with how you treat yourself first. So I hope that something has absolutely resonated with you throughout this podcast. I invite you to really sit with yourself and journal. What kind of boss do you want to be for yourself? I know for me, this was absolutely pivotal in locking in this vision of how do I want to treat myself every single day as the boss? And of course, right, it sounds really cute. It's like, oh, that's great, like self-love. But like, if you look at this with the efficiency lens on, which is kind of how I like to mind fuck myself into treating myself better, is like, what's actually the most efficient? Is it actually efficient to go all or nothing and then to like put yourself into the ground and have zero energy or creativity left over? Or is it more efficient to really repair this relationship with being in charge with yourself, be able to take bigger action, be able to rest along the way, and then actually be able to do more in the long term? To me, it's way more efficient, right? And so if you can almost mindfuck yourself into starting to do this, I guarantee you that you will start to see a new version of yourself come to fruition. I can't wait to see what you create with that. I hope that something has landed with you today from this podcast. If it has, send me a message on Instagram at Stephanie Elsterman. I always love to hear them. And share this with somebody who you love, somebody who you think might need that little kick in the booty to A, be in charge of the results of their life, and B, trust themselves to be in charge of the results of their life. So I love you guys, and I will see you on the next episode. Mwah!